Yeah. Okay. So we are able to see you. I can introduce the topic. What we are talking now is, yeah, we can see you now. The topic we are talking now is the risk management strategies for resilient supply chain by Mr. Mehdi Trimeche. Okay. So let me give a quick introduction for the expert. Mr. Mehdi is a strategic business analyst from Tunisia. Okay, so Mr. Mehdi is a consultant in a corporate strategy and international competitiveness, specializing in business management systems, integration and auditing. He excels in designing and implementing strategic processes as well as leadership development and coaching, helping organizations enhance their overall performance and competitiveness. So, Mr. Mehdi, over to you. Please start your session. We are 10 minutes, 10, 12 minutes late. No problem. We can cover it up. Over to you, Mr. Mehdi.
Okay, I shared the presentation. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see your presentation. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so good afternoon or good morning. It's 30 a.m. in my country.
Yeah, it's afternoon. Some of our team members
It's
are attending
afternoon
from US.
in India.
Good afternoon. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so first of all, I want to thank Mr. Sheikh Abdul Qadir for inviting me to participate to this event. Data Labs, the organizer of this event, and also thanks to the organization team. My presentation is about the importance of risk management to ensure business continuity and resilience for supply chain. The content of the presentation is generic, but it can be applied for different domains and different activities, especially as a whole or part of a management system. Supply chains are becoming increasingly complex and extended, exposing the organizations to new and additional challenges and risks of supply chain interruptions. In addition, the supply chain can be in a continual state of change, especially for some companies or projects where the only constant is change. This makes the supply chain vulnerable and always subject to potential disruption and leads to the needs of ensuring the business continuity by preventing disruption or recover after an incident.
So, Mehdi, we are in the first slide, the title slide.
Yeah. The first slide. Yeah. It's just the introduction. Yeah.
Please.
So, why from a systemic perspective? Because maybe the best way to do it is to implement business management system. Any management system relating to quality, environment, occupational health and safety, maybe IT security, food security, business continuity, or others. And to adopt a risk-based approach, which is a new approach introduced in the new versions of the ISO standards to manage the system. So it's a risk-based approach is by definition equivalent to objective-based approach. We'll see later in the definition of the definition of risk. So next slide. So Mr. Abdul Qadir already introduced me, so don't need to present myself. Maybe my background is an aeronautical engineer. I graduated since 1992 from the Tunisian Air Force as aeronautical engineer. What are the objectives of this session? So it's not a training or a consultancy session. The main objectives of the presentation are to position the risk management process within a business continuity management system. So most of the companies have their management systems, but the implementation or the design of the risk management system itself sometimes is not good and it's not systematic. Then to initiate to risk-based thinking and the importance of risk management in supply chains. And finally, it is initiation. And it is initiation to systematic management of business continuity and resilience of supply chains, including the interaction between processes and the interactions between external and internal interested parties or stakeholders. And we will see that in details later. This will, or maybe this will assist people who are buying, managing, or responsible for product or service necessary to an organization to protect its critical business activities. And this can introduce to the implementation of good business continuity processes in line with existing standards and best practices, and also with existing management systems of the company. Let's start by a short and real story. Just 1 second. Okay. Okay, so the story is about a leading supplier of automotive components specialized in manufacturing wiring systems for prestigious German car brands. The company was established in Tunisia in the beginning of the 90s and has a long-standing presence in the region. It invested in infrastructure, equipment, and resources to ensure a high level of product quality. The selection of Tunisia among other countries where to be established was for many reasons. Of course, the strategic location of the country. Tunisia offers proximity to European clients, resulting in reduced logistics costs and enhanced security. Historically, Tunisia had a political climate characterized by a unified government and robust security, which is not the case now. Good infrastructure, and this provided a conducive environment for business operations. Tunisian skilled workforce offers a competitive advantage with its combination of talent and affordability. And Tunisia's cost-effective infrastructure provides a favorable business environment compared to European countries, of course, because the costs are not the same. The company receives the material from the European construction. It produces the wiring systems using the client designs, and then it delivers the product in a weekly basis to be integrated in the assembly line. The company establishes strategic partnership with local and international transportation, logistics, and insurance providers to ensure seamless operations. Both the robust supply chain management processes combined with stringent quality control measures have consistently resulted in low non-conformity rates and high customer satisfaction for more than 20 years or more. Suddenly, the Tunisian Revolution of 2011, it marked a period of significant political and social upheaval in Tunisia. Widespread protests and civil unrest culminated in the overthrow of the long-standing government, leading to a period of instability and uncertainty in the country. And then a total wave of trouble and disorder covered the entire country, causing the disruption of most vital activities, internally and externally. And you can see that without a security system in force, it was almost impossible to transport any kind of goods by road. The seaports were locked, the people of logistics companies were on strike, and even the customs refused to work as a form of protest. On the other side, the European car construction companies need the outsourced components to be provided on time, so to allow them to continue producing cars. To mitigate the supply chain risks, we can imagine many solutions. For example, temporary emergency stock located on the client side, a force majeure clause in the contract to address unforeseen events and limit the liability of parties, a comprehensive insurance coverage to protect against financial losses arising from disruptions, etc. But is it the right or the good solution? We will see later. This kind of preventive actions will potentially reduce the impact of disruption, which may cause the damage to the company brand or the damage of the company or the business itself. However, nobody can predict the duration of this unexpected situation. So even if you have a situation, nobody can predict the duration. So we don't know if this kind of solution is enough or not. So customers will hold the company accountable for the performance of its supply chain, even if it is a case of force majeure, and expect uninterrupted delivery of products, whatever happened and for any reason. So the question for you as responsibles for the supply chain, how can you manage this critical situation from a provider side? If you have the possibility to write a short answer on chat, just to have an idea about the way people are thinking on how to mitigate this kind of or manage this kind of situation. Is it possible, Sheikh? Hello, Sheikh Abdul.
Just a second. I think we lost him for just.
So is it possible that the people attending the session can write on chat?
Mr. Mehdi,
Okay,
you may continue. He will join us in a minute. Yeah, he's having some difficulty in joining. Please
it's,
continue.
it's, it's, it's not a problem. Okay, I asked this question before and I saw that most people think about the corrective approach, not the proactive approach. So this is why I'm asking this question. So we behave in front of the problem instead of behaving before the problem. And in such case, for example, in such blackout situation, it is almost impossible to succeed a corrective action. So things must be prepared in advance to take care about the potential risks and to prepare for actions and actions plans before that it happens. So what is the solution adopted by the company? So since the early establishment period, the company anticipated potential challenges and evaluated their consequences through a proactive risk assessment process. In collaboration with the Tunisian military, the company established a contingency plan that enabled them to assume responsibility for its logistics operations during the period of disruptions, potentially, and they made a contract between the company and the Tunisian army. So immediately the contract was activated and the army took care of the entire peer-to-peer logistic process. It transported and protected the goods by road to the nearest Air Force base and then shipped it to Europe on military airplanes. Maybe it's a little bit hard to imagine such kind of solutions, but it is really done and it succeeded and it saved the situation for the company. Even this solution had a cost. It prevented big fines and big losses for the company and for its client, of course. Poor supply chain management can destroy value and jeopardize the company brand, reputation, and maybe the existence of the company itself. What is important is this real story that I witnessed myself, that really it changed my conception of vision. All of us hear about vision, strategy, policy, planning, objectives, risks, etc. But how to really implement it and how to really use it, most people don't know how to do it. Even for companies which are certified, to be certified is just to comply with strict minimum of the requirements of the ISO. So it's not a label of excellence. Okay, so as per the ISO standards, any management system can be certified if it initially responds to the strict minimum compliance with the relating ISO standard. Why? First of all, it's for commercial reasons. So even certification bodies have this commercial consideration for their customers. So if you don't certify the company, they will seek for another certification body to get the certification. And most important, because the continual improvement is a requirement. So the continual improvement process is a requirement in the ISO system. So the company must and will learn and evolve as long as it makes mistakes. And here you can see that mistakes are opportunities for the company and not problems. So they will permit to the company to learn and to evolve. Any problem must trigger the resolution process. Example, non-conformity, non-compliance, incident, client claim, we don't reach an objective, etc. So it can be considered as a problem and it will be treated as per the resolution process, continual improvement process. The responsible person or team should carry out. So this is the process in case of non-conformity. So the responsible person or team shall carry out an immediate action to solve the problem and stop or reduce the impact. And this is what we call the correction. So the correction is the immediate action or actions to stop the problem. Example, to put out the fire before asking any question on why or who. So instead of searching the cause of fire, let's start by putting out the fire to stop it, and then we will continue the process for cause analysis and other actions. Then we start searching for the causes until reaching the root cause. So most of people talk about root cause, but sometimes it is better to talk about the real cause, not only the root cause. So we can use tools, for example, like the Ichikawa or the 5 Whys or other to identify the root cause, but it is better to point the real cause of the problem so to avoid that the problem will restart again. The corrective action will stop the recurrence of such issues. Of course, the corrective actions will be relating to the root or to the real cause, which is identified and defined. And then the preventive actions shall prevent for having similar issues from similar cause. So when we have the nonconformity or the problem and we do the cause analysis, we will learn from this process. We will try to define or to develop an action plan of the corrective action, so not to have the same problem another time for the same cause. And then we can predict other causes that they can cause similar problems. So, and here it is the preventive actions. This process is very interesting for the development of knowledge and competency inside the enterprise. However, to learn from our mistakes, we have to pay the cost of non-conformities. And sometimes it is very costly for the enterprise, for the company. The new version of ISO standards introduced the concept of risk management. So instead of waiting for problems to react, we act in a proactive manner, and we start by risk analysis to identify potential risks and take actions to mitigate them. If the company doesn't have the competence to identify risks and develop mitigation plans, it can be supported by an internal consultant or expert. Even if the company have the competence for technical aspects, sometimes other aspects like management, for example, or strategy, can be well appreciated by the internal people of the company. So sometimes we need to be supported by an external eye, not part of the enterprise. After that, the process is almost the same. So in case of non-conformity, the impact will be low. The improvement process, which is the same, will be carried out the same way. And instead of preventive actions, we look to risk management process to add new risks or to reevaluate existing risks. So we start by managing the risk to prevent all this chain. In case of non-conformity, we proceed the same way by correction, cause analysis, and corrective action. But no more preventive actions because we are in a proactive process. So after the corrective actions, we learn from this process and we look back to the risk management to add new risks or to improve the evaluation of existing risks. And of course, this will reduce the occurrence of this of non-conformities or appearance of problems in general, which will reduce costs for the enterprise. So the risk management here can be considered as a first filter for non-conformities or for problems. This will reduce the probability and even if we have a problem, it will reduce the impact because we have actions in force that can reduce the consequence of these kind of issues or problems. Let's start by defining the risk as per the ISO standard. So the risk is defined as the effect of uncertainty on objectives. This is the definition of risk as per the ISO. For the literal definitions, it's about probability, not it's about effects. So here the ISO definition focused on effect. However, the literal definition focused on the probability. So to understand this definition, we need to start by the end, not by the beginning. So we start by defining the objectives, strategic objectives or operational objectives, and then search for any reason that can prevent to reach this objective. We can ask questions like what are the events that would prevent me, for example, from succeeding in my strategy, from committing to my policy, my ethics, to protect my reputation, from achieving my mission, from reaching my objectives, etc. An event can be a risk source, can have one or more occurrences, and can have several causes and several consequences. And this is why we need to evaluate the risks, what we call the criticality of risks. Uncertainty supposes a lack of information about when, where, what, how, who, how much, etc. And if the effect or consequence is positive, we talk about opportunity instead of talking about risks. And this is why in the ISO standard, we talk about risks and opportunities, not only about risks. So it is negative. We talk about risk, and if it is positive, it is an opportunity for the enterprise, and both of them are managed in a proactive way, not in a curative way. Some examples of risks. Organizations rely on external providers to deliver compliant products or services on time. The company shall recognize the potential impact of a disruption within its supply chain, and many events can cause a failure to deliver a product or service, and which shall be considered and mitigated before they happen. And we give some examples of risk. For example, for natural risks, we can have the floods, earthquakes, tornadoes, windstorms, storms, intense cold or heat, pandemics, etc. And we already lived the pandemic risks in the COVID-19. For the technological risks, so for example, fire or explosion, wars, riots or terrorist activities, collapse of a building, major organizational failure, even internally or managerial failure, dangerous liquid spill, especially for the occupational health and safety and for the environmental risks in general, power or water supply outage, IT or network outage, and all of these risks are potential and can happen by one or sometimes we can have three or more risks happening simultaneously. Okay. The risk-based management approach can be used in any business domain and even in integrated management systems, including simultaneously many domains. Example, for quality, we can talk about dysfunction. For information system, we can talk about threats. For occupational health and safety, we talk about danger, which is the source. For environment, we talk about environmental aspects or significant environmental aspects. All of them use the risk approach to reduce or avoid problems like non-conformities or any kind of incidents. Uncertainty is caused by a lack of information, and usually we talk about probability, but probability is the mathematical representation of the likelihood. It's not the likelihood itself. So it's a form of presentation of the likelihood. Of course, that permits to do the calculation of the risk of the risk later. And a potential event might happen without notice and have a consequence which, yes.
Yeah, Mr. Mehdi, just I would like to step in. This likelihood and probability is very important to identify. If you, for a particular risk, what is the likelihood and what is the probability? Do you have any guidelines? Because it's all subjective. People may put likelihood and probability based on their experience. Okay. So what is the best way to do it? Yeah, please.
Not method. There is a source, and as ISO standard talking about.
Perfect.
So a potential event might happen without notice and have a consequence which can impact the business continuity, the relationship with stakeholders, especially the clients, and the future development of the company, and sometimes the existence itself. Risk or risk criticality is calculated by the formula likelihood multiply consequence. So this is why we consider the probability for the modelization of likelihood, just to permit to do this calculation, and we call this the risk or the risk criticality. So if this, if the criticality is big, risk is big. If the criticality is low, the risk is not really very dangerous. Some ISO definitions for objective, for example, as per the ISO 22301, it is the result to be achieved. And if we talk about a result to be achieved, it can be in a strategic level, a tactical or operational level. Objectives can relate to different disciplines, such as financial, health and safety, environmental goals. We talk about risks in IT especially, and can apply at different levels, such as strategic, organization-wide, project, product, and process activity, and even for a task. For example, for occupational health and safety. So through the work breakdown structure, we define the activities for each work. And then for a simple task, we need to do the analysis and to identify the dangers and the risks that may cause incident for the employees. Disruption, so it's incident, whether anticipated or anticipated, it is called disruption, that causes an unplanned negative deviation from the expected delivery of products and services according to an organization's objective. So here we can see the objectives, which is the main in the definition of risk. And also when we talk about expected delivery of products and services, it is also defined as an objective for the enterprise. And here we can classify as critical the stakeholders or the elements that can disrupt the activity of the company. Example, we talk about critical client, for example. We can talk about critical supplier, if it is the a lonely supplier or a supplier that provides a critical product. We can talk about critical process, we can talk about critical product, etc. Impact, so it's the outcome of a disruption affecting objectives. And again, we find the objective in the definition. Resilience, as per the Oxford Dictionary, it's the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties. So here, maybe you can ask what's the relationship between business continuity and the resilience. So here, the business continuity process is proactive and the resilience is corrective. This is the difference. So we manage the risks, we manage the business continuity process to avoid any kind of problem. And if it happened, we have the resilience process to recover. Business continuity is the capability of an organization to continue the delivery of products and services with acceptable timeframes at predefined capacity during a disruption. And when we say here with acceptable timeframes and predefined capacity, it's the kind of criteria or the requirements from a client side. It's criteria to evaluate the provider, the company for its providers, and the client to evaluate the company. Business continuity plan, so documented procedures that guide organizations to respond, recover, resume, and restore to a predefined level of operation following disruption. What is important here is the requirement that it must be a documented procedure. Why documented procedure and why it is important? Because the new editions of the ISO don't require no more documented procedures. This is why. So the supply chain model, as per the ISO 22318, you can see that organizations are increasingly interconnected and interdependent with the liberation of the international commerce since the 19th. The business continuity process addresses relationships throughout the supply chain between suppliers and customers. So the organization will be the pivot between the supplier and its suppliers and its customers. The end-to-end supply chain might integrate some indirect external providers. And sometimes, especially for projects, subcontractors. So the company shall define ways to control their activities and ensure their liability. And we talk about that in the ISO 9001 about the external provider, and we consider that as external provided processes. So the company is allowed to externalize some of its processes, activities, or products, but with the condition to control them, because in front of the customer, the organization is the responsible and the accountable. It's not the external provider. This is why. As supply chains become more integrated and lean, the more likely it is that any event affecting one link might affect other links in the chain, sometimes causing the collapse of the entire system. Example, for a company having only one provider or one customer, you can understand the example. So if the customer have a problem, the company will collapse. And if it has only one provider and it is dependent to this only provider, if something happened to the provider, the consequences will be very hard and very heavy for the organization or for the company. This process is generic and intended to be applicable to organizations or parts thereof, regardless of type, size, and nature of business. It is applicable to the supply of products and services, both internally and externally. And the extent of application depends on the organization's operating context and complexity of activities. So this generic character of the supply chain model make it easy to be integrated in any existing company management system. And this is the advantage of what we call the HLS, or the high level structure, relating to the presentation of the ISO requirements in the new edition standards. So even if we have an existing management system, it is very easy to integrate additional management system or to integrate new processes. Business continuity management system. It is, of course, risk-based. So the business environment, or what we call the context in the ISO standards, shall cover the main issues that might affect the business continuity. So here we talk about the business environment, or what we call the external environment of the company. It is the old edition of ISO consider only the internal environment of production. This was introduced till the 2015 edition of the ISO 9001, and to cover all the new standards issued after this date. The scope. So here delimits the supply chain, which can be the whole or part of the company management system. Why the whole or the part? Because the activity of the company can be only a supplier. Other companies can be industrial company, and a supply is a part or a process in the management system. So this is, I say, whole or part of the company management system. All elements that can affect the resilience shall be integrated within the scope. The concept of scope is interesting, for example, for certification. So, for example, for an industrial company, for example, we can certify or we can implement the system only for the supply chain without any consideration for other processes within the company, and we can certify only the for example, the external provision process, for example, or the operation process, the fabrication process. we can define the scope and implement the system consequently to be certified. So, and here inside the scope, we have the internal environment. We talk about interested parties or stakeholders, but we shall consider the relevant interested parties. It means the parties that have a direct or indirect effect on the activity of the enterprise and its objectives and its success. And these relevant interested parties may have positive or negative impact on business. Example, the client which have requirements, the bank to finance a project, for example. If we don't need to be financed by a bank, the bank is not considered as relevant interested parties. If I can do the project or the production without the support of a bank, then it will be considered as relevant interested parties. And of course, there is a process how to manage these relevant interested parties as per the ISO 9001 standard. A critical supplier, for example, is a relevant interested party, a subcontractor, especially for projects, or internally, the employees are relevant interested parties, and they have needs and expectations that we shall consider in the enterprise. The company shall consider the vulnerabilities which might arise from dependence on a single customer, for example, or a single provider as part of the business continuity strategy, because it's very critical. We can't rely only on one customer or on one provider. We shall find solutions. And even for companies, sometimes we have companies here which are outsources for existing companies in Europe. So they only create this company to produce only for them. But if we see the number of people working there, the infrastructure, the equipment, etc., it will be interesting, even if it is the main reason is to provide for the main company. It will be interesting if we can do it for other customers and to multiply the number of customers and to multiply the number of providers. The internal environment may cover the production environment, for example, the heat, for example, the company culture, and the social environment of people. And this was introduced on the new edition of the ISO 9001. The risks relating to the processes and the activities. So here we can consider each process apart. We analyze the activities, and as the example I gave, for example, for the in projects, for example, through the work breakdown structure, we can define the activities, and for each activity, we can identify the source of danger, for example, for occupational health and safety, and the associated risks and the action plan relating sometimes to the one, not to many tasks, which is activities, or many activities which are processes. And finally, the risks generated by interactions between all these elements. So here I try to give an example on how, and this is the question that Mrs. Abdul asked, on how to consider the risks or to identify or look for risks inside the enterprise. So the hierarchy here is to start by the business environment in general and what can have an impact, external impact on the enterprise. Then the internal environment inside the scope. Then the external and internal interested parts. Then the processes and the interactions of processes to the lowest level. Business continuity management system is a holistic management process that identifies potential threats to an organization and the impacts to business operations. It provides a framework for building organizational resilience. Why I said framework? Because the enterprise is supposed to evolve. So to integrate new processes, to maybe to integrate new products, needs and expectations of clients are not the same, etc. So when I build a framework, and here framework will return to the term generic. So a generic framework, it will be lean and easier for the enterprise to evolve, to implement new activities, to implement new processes, and to find new interactions between processes internally or externally. So I said it provides a framework for building organizational resilience with the capability of an effective response that safeguards the interests of its key stakeholders, reputation, brand, and value creating activities, and sometimes the protection of the existence of the company itself, because some incident might cause to the company can be very expensive for the company, so the company cannot recover. And I witnessed a kind of situation of an enterprise that get in fire. So after the fire, it was really very difficult to recover, because the equipment that they use is very expensive, and it was almost impossible to reinvest. Let's talk about the business continuity and resilience process. So this process provides a framework. So this is the process. So provides a framework for building organizational resilience with the capability of an effective response that safeguards the interests of its key stakeholders, reputation, brand, and value creating activities. Framework, proactive framework. So the process that you can see here is a proactive framework. What do we mean by a proactive framework? So we will not react after the incident or the problem occur, but we will try to run this process to avoid that any problem might occur. I give an example for the occupational health and safety, for example. We talk about the emergency situation management, and most people think that emergency situation management is after having an incident, which is not true. It is false. So emergency situation management is the same process. It's a proactive process. Then when it run, it will prevent that we will be in an emergency situation or an issue or a problem happen. We start by the business impact analysis, which is to identify critical business activities and processes. It is essential to understand the supply chain and the risks it poses to organization before deciding about a strategy or action. So the first thing to consider for a company that already have the management system in place, we can consider this as an analysis of the process, what we call the process map, or the system map. So including the mapping of the business environment, the mapping of the internal processes, the interactions between the processes, etc. This is the business impact analysis. From that, we define the risks, and here two steps: to identify and define. So to identify means to discover, and to define, it is a right definition of the risk, including what is what is the event that might happen, what is the probability for this event, what can be the consequence if ever happen. And we consider this in a normal operating mode and abnormal operating mode. And from example, normal operating mode, for example, when day working, for example, and abnormal operating mode can be, for example, night working, for example. And we identify the emergency situation. The emergency situation relate to the high risks as per the evaluation. And here we manage these risks as per the process that we will see later. Then we develop and implement a business continuity plan. So the business continuity plan, we will find actions, we will find the responsibilities for each part in this business continuity plan. And sometimes it can include even the financial department, the IT department, etc. So not only the main business processes for the company, and we will manage the implementations business continuity plan. So we can from time to time plan to test the business continuity plan and emergency situations. So why to do the test? Just to learn on how to implement the actions, to try the actions, and to see if we are performant on what we did, on what we planned on what we did. So here we evaluate the performance of this process. And of course, if we discover that there is a lack in the business continuity plan, we can improve. And if people are not so competent or ready to implement the planned actions, we can do the exercise many times to learn from it. And here we proceed to continual improvement, and we look back to business impact analysis. And this is a continual improvement process, a continual improvement process. However, we can have a real emergency situation, so we can have a problem. So the objective of this process is to prevent problems. However, problems can exist and can occur. So in this case, we are already ready to implement the business continuity plan for this case of emergency situation. People are ready, and we tested before, so the chances to succeed it is very high. Then same thing, we make the evaluation, and we proceed to continual improvement. So to update, to do the business impact analysis, to update the risk registers and mitigation plans, and to enhance the business continuity plan. And this is the main process for continuity and resilience process. So as you can see, this is the business continuity process, and this is the resilience process, which is part of the business continuity process. The risk management process is an integral part of management and for decision making. It is integrated into the organization structure, operations, and process. We talk about risks in the former versions of the ISO standards, especially for environment and for occupational health and safety, but not for quality. It was introduced for the quality management system since the new edition of the ISO standard. So we start by the risk identification. Identify a risk means discover the risk. So the purpose of the risk identification is to seek out, to recognize and describe risks that can help or prevent an organization from achieving its objectives. Why help or prevent? Because we said that positive risks are opportunities for the enterprise. So it will be a good thing to consider this to add value for the enterprise from these opportunities. Then we proceed to the risk analysis, which permits to understand the nature of the risk and its characteristics. When analyzing risks, we should consider the dynamic and variable nature of human behavior and culture, which is the most important component of the risk analysis in general, because sometimes we can't prevent how people think or how people can behave, especially if you don't have documented procedures or technical specifications or something like that. We evaluate the risks as per defined evaluation criteria. So we need to define criteria and then evaluate the risks as per this criteria. And we classify risks. After the initial risk classification, you can see here for the classification. So the right part of the slide. So here we have the reduced probability and reduced consequences, which are the acceptable risks. We have the reduced probability big consequence, or the reverse big probability and reduced consequence, which are risks that the company can accept or refuse. And we have the big probability and big consequence, or both of them, which are the not acceptable risks for the enterprise. So after the initial risk evaluation, we consider the existing provisions and we re-evaluate risks. So here we can say we have the existing provisions. So the risk analysis, as we have nothing in place. So we consider that we have nothing in place. We have this event that may have this consequence, and we analyze it as is. And then we consider the existing provisions. It's not a requirement. It is especially important for occupational health and safety. For example, we have existing provisions in the company, but we can't classify falling from height as something acceptable for the company. So this is why in the initial risk evaluation, we consider as is without any existing provisions, just to show the criticality and the importance and severity of this risk. And after that, we consider the existing provision to do the same kind of evaluation to obtain the residual risk evaluation. So residual risks are the initial risks considering the existing provisions. And of course, the criticality is less than the criticality for the first case, for the initial risk evaluation.
Mr. Mehdi,
Then,
just watch your time, please. Huh? Okay, just.
Yeah, just for 4 or 5 minutes maximum.
Alex is getting late.
I try to recover the 10 minutes.
Schedule it late by 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then the actions plan for risk treatments. And here for the actions plans, we have performed actions which will be added to the existing provisions. And then we evaluate the new residual risk evaluation. So here we can loop only on the residual risk evaluation, the case for occupational health and safety and for environment, for example. And for other aspects like quality, for example, we can loop on the beginning and start by the risk identification and to proceed for all the process. Although the risk management process is often presented as a sequential process, in practice it is iterative. And each iteration will reduce the probability or the consequence. So as you can see here, we can pass from the red to the green. Success keys of supply chain resilience. So as we saw in a systemic approach, the first thing to consider is the support by the top management and the commitment to the company's policies. And it's the same when deciding to implement the management system in general, health and safety, quality, environment, etc. If the top management is not committed to implement or to manage this on this right way, the system will never succeed, because we'll need later for the company policy to follow out the objectives, to permit to people to evolve, to develop the competency of people, etc. So if the management is not really committed to the system, we cannot succeed. A good vision, long-term strategy to build a resilient organization. And here we can consider, for example, the main business of the enterprise. We can consider the kind of customers and the business models in general. So which business model the company will adopt and which strategies to adopt. A company that don't have a strategy will never succeed. So it's like driving in the dark without light. So if you don't know where to your destination and you don't have a vision and strategic objectives, it's very hard to the company to succeed. A good understanding of the business context. Some companies are focused on the internal business processes, I mean the main business, but don't have an understanding of the business context. And some companies don't take care about this business context. Most of the small companies, we find that only the top management consider the business context, participate to fairs, participate to international organizations, business organizations, etc. But other people don't have any idea about the business context. And it is very interesting for the company to share this understanding of this context with people, so people can understand what is happening outside the company, and they share the same vision of their top management. A flat organization based on interactions between processes. So most former companies are based on organization chart, which is vertical and which causes many problems. However, the process-based system is better for reactivity, is better for responsibility and authorities, which will be defined when defining the process, and especially for the rapid interactions between processes. A good communication process inside the company and outside the company. Most important inside the company, to share information. And this is why the new edition talk about the knowledge management inside the enterprise. A good relationship with stakeholders, especially well-established contracts with providers, and with customers. Reduce dependency to clients and to external providers by multiplying the number of clients, by multiplying the number of external providers, by defining criteria to choose clients or to choose external providers, and by evaluating these external providers and make the selections of the best. The control of external provided processes and products. So the company is responsible and accountable in front of the customer. So even if it is fabricated outside the company, for the customer, it's your product. So you are responsible for the quality of this product, and the company shall protect its image in front of the customer. Well-managed risk management and business continuity processes. So well-managed risk management, we need to implement this risk management process inside the company. And of course, even if we don't have a defined business continuity process, the result is there. So if we have a risk management process, we can get the business continuity process, and we know how to recover after an incident. And performance process of change management, because the change management, the change is maybe is the most risky thing in a company. You change a way of working, you change a machine, you change an operator, you change a director. The consequences sometimes are very expensive for the enterprise. So this is what I identified as success keys for the supply chain resilience. And finally, some references. You can find all these descriptions and many tools in the ISO standards. So here it's only a summary of the standards I used for to prepare this presentation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mehdi. Thank you very much for very insightful. I know this is a very huge topic, and usually the supply chain risk and resilience is something people keep it at the end. Okay, so they don't start with risk and resilience from the beginning. So after watching your session, the participants will realize that how important is it. Okay, and it's very important to talk about risk and resilience from the strategy point of view. Okay, so thank you very much. And due to lack of time, so we post all the questions to you offline, because we are late by a few more minutes, and we have 5 more sessions to catch up today. So thank you very much, Mr. Mehdi. Wonderful session.
Thank you.
To have you have a lecture.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.